The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. One of the scribes came near and heard the religious authorities disputing with one another. And seeing that Jesus answered them well, he asked him, "Which commandment is the first of all?" Jesus answered, "The first is, 'Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these." Then the scribe said to him, "You are right, teacher. You have truly said that he is one, and besides him there is no other, and to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself. This is much more important than all old burnt offerings and sacrifices." When Jesus saw that the scribe answered wisely, he said to him, "You are not far from the kingdom of God." After that, no one dared to ask Jesus any question. The Gospel of the Lord. If I have received a question in other parishes, I'm sure it is a question in some of you guys' heart about me touching my iPhone during Mass, especially around the time of the Gospel and the homily. As you know, I've been recording my homily, the audio version, to make a podcast. And doing a podcast and recording just the audio is a little technical and time-consuming. Or it's probably because I'm lazy, I don't know. So this week I decided to start video recording my homilies. And so that's why the iPhone is in front of me. And I'll be putting them on YouTube, and it will be just a few little steps less of work. Though it will be one step more here in Waltham because there's no cell phone service, so I can't stream it live. So it has to be recorded first and then uploaded on the internet, but we'll manage. So if you see the iPhone in front of me for homilies, that's what it's all about. In today's gospel, Jesus is confronted with another question. People have questions. People are trying to corner him. People are trying to get their own theory advanced and not be open to God's word, not to be open to God's love. And today, one such question comes, it seems, at least from the end of it, from the end of the story, not from someone who wants to put Jesus in a corner per se, but someone who wants to understand more and be more in tune with God's word. And the big question is about the commandments. Which one is the first? Which one is the most important one? Because for the Jews, it starts with the list of the 10 commandments that Moses received on the mountain, but then everything ended up being codified all along the way. And when they made the list of everything that is codified in the Old Testament, there was over 600 of them. Can't remember the exact number. So, which one of them is the most important one? Because, of course, people pick and choose what they want to be the most important thing. People will, along the way, decide that everything is so important that it becomes so much of a burden. But there must be something more important than the other. And so Jesus answers the lawyer, the scribe who is asking him a question. He answers by going back to the root of it all, to love God and to love our neighbor. And the scribe answers him back, yes, that's right. But he goes on more than that. He goes on to say, this is much more important than all old burnt offerings and sacrifices. Sacrifices and holocaust, burnt offerings, were very important in the Jewish temple rituals, especially the whole burnt offerings, because the whole animal was burnt. Nothing was kept of it. Everything was given to the Lord in sacrifice. The other sacrifices, a piece was burnt, a piece was kept for the family, a piece was given to the priests working in the temple. But in the whole burnt offerings, everything of it was burnt. Everything of it was given. And so this scribe tells that loving God and loving our neighbor is more important than any and all of them. And this should help us to reflect on the sacrifices that we do, but also on the commandments or the rituals or the practices, the pieties that we have. A few years ago, Father Gilmet was still here, so that's at least before 2011. It's about 2010, if I remember correctly. So it's getting closer to 10 years ago. You remember that we got a new version of the ritual of the Missal, the Roman Missal, a new translation in English. And people had to learn new prayers or new formulation of prayers. A few places here and there, like the answer, and with your spirit, when we say the Lord be with you. Or adding the word Holy Church, or other things here and there. Of course, some have, followed in the habit of changing that. Others are still just on the automatic mode and still have the old prayers and the old formulas in their minds, and it's spontaneous that they just go back to these. Some yet have probably also not wanted to go along with the new translations. Thinking like back in the 60s when we changed from Latin to English, French, the vernacular languages, thinking that we know it all, we should keep it the way we have it. But when we do changes like that, we're just changing to go deeper in our understanding. We're not changing the essence of it. At the essence of it all is still the love of God and the love of our neighbor. That is what is important. And if I refer to this thing of translation, it is because, just like the English people, the French people are about to live some translation changes in their Mass ritual. The French will be having a change in the prayer of the Our Father at the beginning of December. In France, they added a year ago. We were waiting until the new book was coming out with the rest of the prayers, but disputes between translators ends up putting that translation back another year. But for the Our Father, we know that we need to change a little piece of it in French at the end, because the translation that was made in the 60s was not completely accurate. And so we have to change a word, two words, to change the formula, to change the concept of the sentence, where we ask God, in English we say, and lead us not into temptation. The French version for the past 40 years has been ne nous soumets pas à la tentation. The idea with the word submit, the idea that God was kind of a puppet master is behind that word. And God is not like that. We ask him to help us not enter into temptation. And I know that some will have difficulty changing that. But I invite them to have an open heart, to understand behind that change that the words we say mean something. That the words we say are there to bring us closer to God. To understand that God is the one, that we should love him and love our neighbor. And that those words are just outside, but they are pointing towards, helping us, leading us to understand him more and to deepen our faith in that love of God and love of our neighbor. And so as we reflect this week on our reading, let's ask the Lord to help us love him more and love him in others around us.